Have you ever wondered why British society is so divided on immigration? This problem has taken center stage in the public discussion in the UK, and with each passing year, the distance between the political leadership and the social sectors becomes wider, creating a gap that threatens the validity and support of the democratic system. As the people suffer from recession, inflation, and a rising cost of living, politicians dismiss the opinion of the worried natives as fascists and refuse to accept the political cost of their mishandlings.
How important an issue is immigration to you?
Well, I can't get a job. They come to this country and they just get a job just like that.
Cities like London, which concentrate the largest number of people in the country, are showing enormous unemployment rates, which have reached 5.3%, one of the highest in recent decades, while the Northeast and the East show a persistence in the fall in natives' employment. In this video, we will look under the rug of British politicians and ask ourselves, is this the last chance for British democracy to resolve the economic and immigration crisis before there is a social outbreak? UK politicians should mind the gap. The debate on the immigration crisis is one of the central points in the distance between the British people and their political leaders. This is particularly noticeable in the cultural clash around Muslim refugees, who have expanded the spread of the Islamic religion, highlighting the difference that exists in popular opinion between European immigrants and immigrants from Arab or African countries. A recent survey carried out by the United Kingdom Migration Observatory shows that rejection of Muslim refugees and immigrants is very negative in 37% of the population and negative in 15%. In total, 52% of Britons believe that this segment of immigrants should be reduced, while only 14% believe that it should be increased. The same survey shows that the view of the British towards Ukrainian refugees is much more supportive, with a total of 15% rejecting and a large majority accepting. In the same way, the majority of society as a whole rejects allowing entry to the unemployed and unskilled workers or people without schooling, while showing greater tolerance towards visas for professionals. But politicians do not mind this gap. The social distrust is not represented in traditional politics, which dismisses concerns and points against a xenophobic bias, although the economic reality is reflected in unemployment and job displacement. The terrible impact of unemployment and job displacement. The employment situation in the United Kingdom is alarming. Public data for the first half of 2024 shows that unemployment has increased to 4.4%, getting dangerously close to the historical peak of 6% that it hit due to the coronavirus pandemic. While unemployment increases among the native population, labor displacement by immigrants has grown exponentially. According to this study, we can see that in 2005 it was 10%, while for the first half of 2024 it is 21%, more than double, with the majority of these being born outside the European Union. If one reviews the unemployment data among immigrants during the same period, one finds that the historical peak was 11% in 2011, while currently it is at one of its lowest points at 6%. Here is the criticism that the British make of their politicians. They are being more effective in integrating immigrants into a stable life than their own natives.
You're putting up your corner shops, you're taking over England. But if you want to come in here, you can't. You've got to go back to your own country.
While unemployment expands exponentially in some areas, such as the north of England, industrial hubs absorb immigrant workers through state programs. It is important to keep in mind that the majority of unemployed people have social welfare systems, whether for disability, housing assistance, student scholarships, or universal assistance. While the cost of these programs is much higher for natives, fiscal spending on state assistance towards migrants and refugees in the UK is one of the largest in Europe at a cost of £4,297 million in 2023. The loss of trust in the political representatives.
What worries me enormously as well is this Labour government will sit down with their instincts for control and start to impose all sorts of restrictions on all of us. That's what worries me as a reaction to these sorts of riots.
The political unrest generated by this contradiction between popular perception and government measures has caused both the Conservatives and Labour to lose the confidence of their own voters. And even worse, the democratic system itself is questioned. We can no longer take democracy for granted. Leaders such as Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Nicolas Maduro have shown that a certain popular support can be achieved with false democracies, maintained through sham elections or outright fraudulent elections. In fact, recent surveys show that 59% of the population is very dissatisfied with the functioning of democracy, and 70% think that leaders no longer represent their political thoughts. If we add to this the loss of jobs, the rise in inflation, and the spread of exogenous cultures such as Islam in a society of Protestant Christian tradition, we can see why leaders such as Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer face widespread distrust regarding their positions on immigration. What for the moment maintains a certain calm in the spheres of power is that the same public that distrusts democracy rejects even more the idea of a totalitarian leader or a military-based government, with margins greater than 70%. The media and social networks' impact on public opinion. Mainstream media and social media play an important role in shaping public perception. There is a clear difference of opinion on immigration between young people, especially university students, and the adult population or workers in general. While the first tend to consume left-wing media that promotes an open-arms view of refugees, adults consume traditional local media, which focus their analysis on the current material problems of the population, such as employment rates, crime rates, or overall cost of living. In turn, social networks encourage encounters between social sectors that think in a certain way, reinforcing the beliefs and feelings of each side of public opinion. The idea of algorithmic reinforcement, in which people consume content directly related to their ideas, has made the Democratic Center increasingly rare, extreme political positions, especially towards immigration, as we have noted in previous surveys. It can be said that society today is fragmented into two parts that, far from uniting in coexistence through the election of representatives, move away due to the frustration of not seeing their thoughts represented. The lack of social cohesion due to political disbelief. This distance between public opinion and the measures carried out by elected governments in the last decade has led to an increase in social tension. The division and radicalization in public opinion has led society to stop looking for common ground, and the tactic of labeling the people's demands as far-right xenophobic or inconsequent left-wing progressives has left an internal agglutination of both sectors, which has caused an increase in public demonstrations and acts of violence towards those they consider to be responsible for their problems.
I do want to see those gangs smashed so that people don't arrive in the first place. And I know it could be done because I spent 5 years of my life on similar operations.
Far from trying to calm social anger, British governments have insisted on classifying protesters as ideological extremists and intolerant of other cultures, repressing them both through speeches and with law enforcement. This has only increased the discomfort of those who, going through one of the worst economic, labor, and financial times of the 21st century, feel accused as villains instead of assisted as victims. What does the future hold if the immigration crisis is not controlled? If you look back at the expectations that both the European Union and the United Kingdom had for immigration in 2020, you see that all the projections were wrong. While governments expected a drastic reduction in the entry of migrants, all indices skyrocketed starting in 2021, which suggests that the projections for 2036, which suggest that some 13.7 million people will emigrate to the United Kingdom, could be an optimistic vision. If we take into account only persistent factors, such as the lack of work and poor lifestyle in third world countries, overpopulation, and the impact of climate change in precarious countries, we can expect that until 2050 the number of refugees will only increase. This without taking into account current factors such as the war in Ukraine or the civil war in Syria. The world does not seem to be heading towards a period of extensive peace, so dismissing elements of this type to project immigration would be wrong. Although both the EU and the United Kingdom have a budget dedicated to assisting countries in poverty to stop immigration, such as Afghanistan, Lebanon, or Syria, there really is no evidence that these plans have a real impact, and they are perceived by the general public as another fiscal cost that has an impact on their taxes and deterioration of lifestyle. The dying democracy. In the eye of the hurricane, we find a fragile democracy that seems to represent fewer and fewer people. While public opinion screams of frustration, politics seems to turn a deaf ear to the discontent of the people it must serve. The social climate is becoming more tense, and the increase in the cost of living in this decade is pushing to the limit of people who are increasingly less afraid to demonstrate their indignation with rage in the streets, despite the repression of the law enforcement agencies. Will the British people allow this gap to continue growing, or will they demand accountability before it's too late?